Let's start, shall we, with that big decision of Setien not to bring on Antoine Griezmann until the 90th minute. This is what he had to say after the game about that. The problem is not everyone can play. We didn't bring him on because the team was doing well. It's difficult to find a place for Griezmann without destabilising the team. I won't say sorry because it's about decisions, but I understand he may feel bad, and I feel bad for him because he's a great person and a great professional. Gab Marcotti and Ali Moreno alongside me. Boys, before I get your opinion on that quote, we also heard from Antoine Griezmann's father on Instagram saying, in order to apologise, you first need the keys of the lorry, and that is not the case because he is simply a passenger. A lot to unpack here, Ali. Where would you like to start?
Well, let's start with Quique Setien and him talking about it is hard to find a place for Antoine Griezmann on the field. Well, this is the same person and the same manager that maybe about a couple of weeks ago, if that, he came out and gave Antoine Griezmann the dreaded vote of confidence in saying that he would play for the team and he would be out on the field because he's an important figure as to what Barcelona does out on the field. Well, which one is it, Quique Setien? Is Griezmann important to the team or not important enough to have him out there in what was essentially the most important game you have played up until this point against Atletico Madrid? And so the truth is that Antoine Griezmann doesn't really fit in Barcelona, not as they are currently constructed. And that's why we see him struggle in the way that we have seen him struggle throughout the course of the season. And because of that, you have to make tough choices. But if you're the manager of a team like Barcelona, I don't feel like you have to come out and explain your decisions. However, people are going to ask the questions. And if you're going to answer those questions, then don't feel the need to apologize to the player. You go to the player directly and you explain the situation if indeed that's the way you want to deal with it. But you don't have to come out and say, I should apologize to him because he's a great person and a great professional. The reason Antoine Griezmann was brought into Barcelona was because he's a great player. And we just haven't seen anywhere near that with his performances this whole year with Barcelona.
This whole quote is a little nonsense, Gab. In particular, the bit when we didn't bring him on because the team was doing well. You were hanging on against Atletico Madrid. You needed to win this game. You knew that Real Madrid would be big favourites if you didn't take all 3 points. You weren't doing well. Why are you saying that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what he meant was that, you know, he felt the team could see out the game and get the 3 points without him. But I think Ali hit the nail on the head. And I hate to go back to this, and I rarely do it, but you have managers who are in that big club manager, and they have that big club bluster about them, and you have other managers who maybe are nice guys, and nice guys feel bad when, oh, look, you know, I didn't get that guy on the field sooner. And, you know, Setien, in a perfect world, Setien would be the kind of manager who's confident enough and secure enough to say, look, it's my rear end on the line, not yours. I thought we were better off without Griezmann. He hasn't exactly lit it up. It's on me. If you don't like where we are at the end of the season, then go ahead and fire me if you've got the guts to do that. But I'm not going to apologize to him or answer specific questions here. He doesn't do that. It's not in his DNA. He has to offer up explanations. And when you do that, you come across looking weak, and these people smell blood.
Ali, how would you feel if your father took to Instagram to defend you?
I have to say, and maybe this is a sign of the times, but I cannot, in my lifetime, picture my father coming out and saying these things. If he indeed was evaluating my performances with an unbiased view and saying, well, you haven't played all that well. So if anything, my father would take the position of like, yeah, I wouldn't have played him either. No, he's not playing well. He doesn't deserve to be out on the field. Instead, we take this approach that somehow Antoine Griezmann is entitled to a starting position. And the truth is that his performances haven't warranted that. The only thing that I would say about Antoine Griezmann being on the field against Atletico Madrid is the fact that not because of whatever Griezmann has done, but but because whatever Luis Suarez was not able to do, because physically he seemed to be struggling. And so you needed somebody who, at the very least, could move with some sort of freedom. Whereas Suarez was impeded physically and visibly so, you could at least, in Antoine Griezmann, have a body that can actually run, which is a minimum requirement to play this game.
But Ali, see, there you go back to the fact that Setien is Setien. I mean, I agree with you. If you look at it that way, in terms of who can play center forward, apart from Luis Suarez and run around and make those runs, especially when Suarez, clearly was unfit, it's Griezmann. But then if you put Griezmann on, and then things don't work out for you, then you have to go and answer, why do you take off Luis Suarez? And then maybe Messi isn't happy that Suarez came off, and then it blows up in your face. And so, in some ways, it's easier to just leave Griezmann on the bench than make a tough decision like to take off Suarez in a game like that.
Gab, are we in any sort of world in which Setien could get sacked before the Champions League resumes in August?
I don't think so. I think it would have to be some sort of major falling out with senior players. Look, the stakes are high, but, they're still there. They still have a Champions League to play for, and believe it or not, they still have a Liga to play for as well. So I just don't think it would be seen as particularly serious on the part of Bartomeu and the people around him to go and make it, 3 managers in a season for Barcelona when they are still technically so close to the top and so close to the finish line in the Champions League as well.
You gave it a 65-35, I think, in our last La Liga conversation. I imagine that's changed now, Gab?
It's changed, but you know what? It hasn't changed tremendously. Maybe I'll push it up to 75. Real Madrid are definitely in a stronger position, but, there are some tough teams out there. These aren't walkovers. And again, Getafe, Javier Bordalas and everything, I don't see that as a gimme by any stretch. In fact, it might be arguably the toughest hurdle Real Madrid has faced since the restart.
Ali, just one last point on this, and it was interesting that Gab brought it up. You look at people like Ancelotti, Zinedine Zidane, who people say, yeah, they're good man management, that's about it. It kind of shows how important that is, doesn't it? Like it's something maybe we take for granted, that anyone can walk into a locker room full of superstars and get results.
Well, there's a certain presence to a manager. There is a certain character that when that guy walks into the locker room, whatever you're doing as a player, you stop doing it and you pay attention. I'm not certain that Quique Setien is that guy and that his assistant Sarabia is that guy. Because what we have seen, and it's been widely reported, is that when they walk into the locker room, people start kind of doing their own thing and ignoring what these guys are trying to put forth. And right then and there that there is a real lack of communication and a real lack of respect that you wouldn't have for guys like Ancelotti and Zidane, because just of the fact of who they are and just of the fact of what they have meant and the things that they have achieved at the level of player and manager and the respect that they command once they get into that sort of environment. I just don't think that Quique Setien has achieved those levels of success. And those players who are in that locker room are saying, I'm not sure this guy really knows what he's doing. And when that thought and that sentiment creeps into a locker room as powerful as Barcelona's locker room, it is so incredibly difficult. In fact, it's impossible to get it back.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.